Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of the originals, as well as the latest episode of Colony. Like always, if I'm talking about something you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of the originals, you can skip to what I say about this week's episode of Colony. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of the originals. A great episode where we find out the secrets behind everything. In particular, we end up finding out obviously the one vampire that was behind this. Oh, lo and behold, shock. It's the lady, like new lady vampire in this situation. Her name's Greta. Apparently she's part of this because she believes in this whole situation, because it doesn't necessarily just stop with hybrids. It's because they look down upon werewolves in general, because it's like, oh, they're nasty, disgusting mongrels. It's like, oh, but vampires are the superior species. I'm curious, does that apply to witches too, or do witches kind of get lumped in with humans? Is it kind of like, you're like, who cares? But it's like, I guess it's just kind of like, because they're the top predators, werewolves and vampires have always kind of been on the top. So they're looked at as more, so werewolves are looked at as, because this all dates back to like, because it's like, oh, the way they're making this story seem like it's like, oh, so August is still alive. Like, it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Because basically in the past, when Klaus and Elijah had met him, he basically slaughtered a whole bunch of werewolves, which Klaus took personal offense to it as someone who has a werewolf side to him. Because for him, it's like, because an attack on the werewolves felt like an attack on him, because like that was a part of himself that Elijah's telling him to hide away, because it would just draw more attention. It's like they're being hunted by their dad anyway. And if you show that side, that's just going to give Michael more people on his side to help kill you. But like for Klaus, he was so enraged by it and made him feel like, you're telling me to hide away a side of me that mom and everyone else my mom bound inside of me for such a long time, made it almost like make him feel ashamed of who and what he was. And that's what this is all about. Like I kind of talked about, like that coin being kind of a Nazi coin. That's what this is all about. It's like, oh, the purity that is the vampire race. And it's like Haley, Hope, and Klaus are abominations upon that purity. Werewolves are just an abomination in general, but they are just kind of a new level of abomination because they are both, you know? And that's what this is all about. It's also about like binding Hope, because it's like, oh, you bind Hope, make it so that she can't make any more hybrids, and then we'll return Haley. But it seems like it's even more than that, on many different levels, because we actually find out that August is actually Antoinette's father, which also means like, wait a minute, so that pisses Elijah off, because it's like, so you've actually known me even longer. Like you said that was the first time we met. Okay, it's already bad enough you lied that you knew exactly who I was the first time we met. Okay, got past that. But now it's like, nope, everything about us was a lie. You made it seem like this is the first time we met. You've lied to me over and over again. For her, it's because it's like she doesn't believe in her dad's message. She never has. But the moment she met like Elijah all those years ago, he showed her kindness. He got her out and away from her family. He gave her an opportunity to run away, because it's like, yeah, all this rage August shows, he could potentially take it out against her too. So it's hard to say, and because it turns out like this runs super deep, because it turns out Roman is actually his son, which I'm like, I'm not surprised. I didn't trust you from the beginning. So now it's like even more so reason not to trust Antoinette. It seems like Antoinette's pulled away from it. She wants a normal life and everything, but maybe that's why she's so okay with Elijah, because it's like, well, Elijah doesn't remember everything. Besides, you know, it's like, oh, I was in love with you, then you show me such kindness. I mean, because it seems like because like I said, the entire time it made it seem like her dad was alive. It's like, no, her dad's been dead for a long time. Like, Klaus got him, but they're the only last people left amongst that whole situation. Roman, Greta, and Antoinette. So I don't know if she's neck deep in this or not. You know, they're just carrying on August's will, because it's like, even Greta went as far as being like, oh, he's almost my Jesus. And it's like, holy shit, you were that deep into it. Like, it's almost like a cult in a sense. I mean, their hatred runs that deep. For what reason? I don't know. I mean, I guess like a lot, and I mean, that's kind of the sad part of it. Like, hatred doesn't need a reason. People find any reason to hate someone else. But the whole thing deals with Hope wanting, like Hope, like, you know, Marcel ends up going to Hope about the whole situation. He went to Freya, who went to Hope about it, and Hope wants to do it. But it's a whole situation of Freya trying to convince her not to do it too. Because initially Hope wanted to kind of, you know, I can give into my werewolf side, but like Freya's like, you know what that goes to? It's like, you forget about it because it doesn't come up that much, but it's like, yeah, it doesn't get brought up a lot. A lot of earlier stuff, somewhat in the originals, but definitely a lot in the Vampire Diaries, focus more on like the terribleness that is transforming into a werewolf, like it basically breaking every bone in your body and then it like breaking back into place when you're turning into a wolf. And it's like that never gets talked about. I feel like it hasn't been talked about in a very long time. And so in Hope's case, which is so interesting to me, I guess it's just because she's gotten older, because when she was younger, all we ever really saw was her witch powers. But now, like, we see her fast healing ability. Her reflexes are very similar to that of like a werewolf. So it's kind of like, obviously this is kind of like before, like it's that hybrid blood in her, the blood of an original and a hybrid kind of mixed in there. Well, the blood of, well, because it's kind of like, well, she's got the, blood of, you know, her mom Haley having to be a crescent alpha of a crescent moon, and then her dad being an original and a vampire. So that kind of concoction created a hybridness inside of her, all kind of very unique hybridness. So I don't know, it's just interesting that it manifests itself like that, because that's why I was actually kind of shocked when I saw her healing, but the fact of before I was like, wow, that had never shown signs before, but maybe that's just part of her getting older, like it manifesting itself like that. So, but Freya kind of talks about the fact is that, you know, Hope wants to seal away this side of her. It's like she had a part of herself taken away too. It's like all those years their aunt like put her underneath that sleeping spell, and so much of her life was taken from her. She didn't get to spend like, that's why this time with her family has been so important to her, because she never had it growing up. And it's just all those years bound to her aunt and just kind of being stuck, kind of that cursed life. And it's like, it's easy to say you're willing to give up one side of your life, but it's like when it's all said and done, like you don't know what that's like, because you're giving up a part of what makes you you, and you will never, once that's taken away, you'll never feel complete. And that's what Klaus is trying to get across. Like he didn't want her to do that, because it's like, one, she could potentially die from it, but also it's like he won't let what happened to him happen to her, because of his side of him, that part of him being suppressed for so long, all it did was make him angry. And it's like the last, like, you know, it seems like Hope already kind of has that trouble too. She kind of has her dad's temper. Like the last thing he wants is for her to have to suffer throughout her life trying to hide away, feeling shame of who she is. She is special and she should embrace that more. It's kind of what, you know, Klaus is trying to get at. But it also seemed like he is making more hybrids using her blood just to kind of make a point, because they'll probably need an army of hybrids. Like I said, which is interesting because I've already talked about it before, like how his whole army of hybrids didn't work out the first time he did it during the Vampire Diaries. That ended with him basically killing them all. So then you see the whole Roman trying to get close to her situation. It seems like he's not 100% into it, because I think he does legitimately feel bad about it, because he sees that Hope is just kind of an innocent person. She ain't asked to be what she is. She was just born into it. So I think he feels a little sadness when it comes to her, but he's still kind of going through with it. So the question is, obviously their mom is kind of the one running things, but the question is, like, Antoinette, like, how much of a part does she have to play in this? Because she's telling Elijah, let's run away together, so maybe she's just trying to keep Elijah away from his family while all of this is happening. It's like, whatever befalls your family, but it's like, me and you, whatever that situation is, because she did say things between their families got bloody. She did admit that, so it does seem like she has no connection, but it does make me wonder. I mean, they've always tried to drag her back. Will things with Elijah end badly and kind of force her to go back, or will she go back of her own choice? Like, what's going to happen with that? Like I said, it seems like the only one that's 100% into this is Greta, because even, like I said, Roman doesn't seem like he's full of hate like she is, you know? So, I mean, he is literally standing in front of the daughter of the man who killed his dad. So I don't know how he really feels about that. Then you had the whole Josh situation, which, because even he was kind of like, oh yeah, we should just do that. But it's like, it's so sad that like Hope gets put this bottle, like this group by everyone. The witches, the werewolves, the vampires, like everyone looks at her as like she's an abomination, like it's all her fault being what she is. It's not, once again, it's not her fault, but it's like the vampires fear her because she, you know, has the werewolf, she can make hybrids. That's kind of the same reason why the wolves fear her too. And it's also because like the witches fear her because Vincent's convinced like she's basically going to be the destruction, the end of everything. But like I said, that might be because she might be the middle ground that connects everyone, because legitimately she represents all three sides: vampires, werewolves, and witches. So I think she's going to be the one that destroys the boundaries. That's what she brings an end to, you know? Maybe brings us into this cycle of hate. Because that's something that Klaus finally admits. Because obviously, he's kind of lashing out at Marcel. He's talking about the fact that all Marcel's doing is he's lost his city, he's lost Rebecca, and all he wants to do is to be loved. Which is like, which I kind of like. That's kind of ironic coming from you, considering the fact that that's kind of like, kind of one of your reasonings. Like, you want to be loved, but you kind of feel like no one will ever love you. It's kind of like he has this like deprecating kind of situation going on. To be fair, his upbringing kind of made him that way, which is kind of interesting because, you know, when he made that comment about like, oh, all this, didn't I tell you, sister, of all the stuff I went through because of that side of me being bound? And then Freya's like, would I constantly tell you about the fact is of what it's like growing up without a mother? And it's like it's hard to say what's right in a situation. That's why Hope kind of feels like she has to be the one to do this on her own. It ultimately has to be her decision, but it's like everyone wants the best for her. Everyone has the best intentions for her. It's just, it's, you know, family. They won't always agree on how to handle it, but they want to protect you. They want to get Haley back, you know. So it's a very complicated situation. But even Marcel admitted, like, he's kind of been off his game, and even Klaus is willing to admit that he's off his game too, because without Elijah there, he's out of balance. Without Rebecca, Marcel's kind of off balance, because he basically left everything behind. He gave up on being king and everything to be with Rebecca. I mean, yes, he was still kind of doing on the side, but it's just because I guess he felt like he didn't completely have Rebecca, you know, so hopefully things kind of change in the end. I'm curious to see what's up with her and Finn during this whole situation, but nevertheless, Klaus admits, like, he was so consumed by rage in this episode that he literally that's the reason why things kind of escalated to what they did back then, because he was so consumed with rage, he left the family with one thing: shame. That's what this is mainly about. This is about getting revenge because, well, no, it's that shame. That shame is what drove their hatred. Yes, their hatred probably existed anyway. Like I said, with Roman and Antoine, that's kind of hard to say, but definitely with Greta. But it's like that shame manifested and grew their hatred even more. It lit, like he says, he's the match that lit that hatred. He's the reason why this is all going down. And even if we still don't know who is, it's kind of similar to last season too, because the whole Hollow situation is like, we don't know who's a follower and who's not, like who's kind of a believer in this whole situation, this whole purity situation. Obviously, whoever it is has got to be a vampire, but still. Makes you wonder, because remember, Henry was bullied and stuff like that, and Roman was kind of like, yeah, he wasn't a part of that and stuff like that, which kind of begs the question. I mean, he could have been, but now you think about it, like, I guess that kind of shows that he really isn't into all this either. I mean, if you need more signs to show that he doesn't want to be a part of this, so. Also, Greta messed Josh up bad. I'm curious to see what happens, because that was kind of Josh, because Josh tried to show sympathy. Like, it's those situations like you kind of have to like show a firmer hand. Like, you might not agree with the way Klaus handles things, but because he is kind of brutal the way he is, I mean, I don't know. It just kind of sucks that things gonna happen to Josh, especially when Josh was trying to show her so much mercy and she kind of screwed him over like that. That's pretty damn brutal. You thought she at the very least show some damn mercy to the person that was trying to show mercy to her, just trying to help out with this whole situation. So now the question then becomes, well, where do we go from here? Like, what about Elijah? Will he just let Antoinette go? You know, where will he stand in all of this? The whole, what's Freya going to do once she finds out the truth about, like, Hope running away with Roman? Where are they going? Where is Greta? How many people are on her side? What Klaus and Marcel are going to do? So many questions about how this is all going to play out. I'm very interested to see. It's so interesting too, because I guess they know about the Michelson situation too, so it's kind of interesting. It's like, well, you know about the whole Hollow situation, so it's like, I don't know, maybe that's not a concern of theirs. Maybe it's just kind of do what we need to do. I guess if they figure, I mean, to be fair, what will happen if you actually did manage to destroy or kill one of the Michelsons? I mean, there's not really a means of actually killing him, but I guess if you destroy Hope, she's the only last means of making that a possibility. So I guess it's kind of like, destroy that side of her, you remove that these abominations ever being a thing again. I mean, she is a special case anyway. Besides being all that, she is the child of a vampire, like, which isn't supposed to be possible, but she's a miracle. Which, like I said, some people might look at as like, she's kind of the leading misfortune, like the whole how witches view her and everything like that. But nevertheless, I'm very curious to see how this is all going to play out. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye. And now moving on to this week's episode of Colony. Quite a few things went down this episode that we kind of got to break down and talk about. First of all, it seems it's very interesting about this whole camp situation. Obviously, everyone kind of wants it to work out. But obviously, like, everyone's kind of picking up a little details. Obviously, like Will and Katie. Basically, we meet the head of the group, McGregor. Basically, for him, it's kind of like he's got his own way of handling things, yes, but he's not trusting Katie and the Bowmans yet. Even though they brought him to Gauntlet, they really won't let him kind of talk. They won't let any of them talk, in particular Katie, even though she has experience with the raps, or rather cliques. It's like, write all this stuff down about all your experiences, like with the raps, with the cliques, everything with LA, yada, yada, yada. And she does, and she's trying to do whatever she can to talk to McGregor into, letting her talk with the clique, maybe helping out whatever she can. Because for her, it's like she's done come all the way here, sacrificed so much just to be sitting on the sideline. She wants to be hands-on with this whole situation. It's like so much was sacrificed, so many lives were given for this equipment, and it's like she's not just going to let it like slip out of her hand. She knows that this could be the thing. This could be the steps to changing humanity's destiny forever when it comes to the raps, taking their world back from them, so because obviously there are a lot of things that are being kept secret because Will starts noticing like all the military guards and stuff like that, and then he starts asking questions about the dude that Broussard knows, the dude with the Bugs Bunny tattoo. The dude he meets, Ed, kind of clamors up. Then there's a whole situation around like, oh yeah, you're not really allowed to walk around without an armed guard. It's like, well, why the hell do I need protection for if this place is supposed to be safe? So it's like, I mean, it's something Vincent talked about. It's like, hey, there's politics here, but it's like, for what? Because it's interestingly enough, like, it's kind of, Snyder's kind of like, we should get the hell out of here. I don't like, because he put a different perspective on things. He's like, the way this place is being run like this, curfews, kind of like having armed guards and stuff like that. He's like, smells awful lot like a colony, which is interesting how, they exist outside of a colony, yet they run things like a colony, which is kind of interesting, but I guess it's kind of obviously, the person who's supposed to run this thing is supposed to be the dude that Broussard knows. Obviously, he's not running things, which obviously is like, well, what happened to him? Is he dead? Is he locked up somewhere? Did McGregor kill him or something? Like, was this kind of like a whole, like, oh, let's a grab for power type of struggle? Obviously, since the whole, like, there's politics at play here. But Snyder doesn't like it here for obvious reasons. He wants to leave this place as soon as possible because he does bring up a good point. Same point I've kind of thought too. If even one person recognizes who he is, like, the only people who would know who he is if they lived in the LA block. But it's like, you never know. There could be plenty of people. There could be people mixed in there that know him, So it's kind of like this whole lie. It's not even just on the kids. It just takes one person recognizing him, and it blows up everything, not just for him, but also for the Bowmans, because obviously they'll probably kill him or interrogate him for whatever information he has, being a collaborator and stuff like that, being a part of all of this. And the Bowman family would suffer for it too, because it's like, oh, you're harboring an enemy type of situation, so it turned ugly for them. So I am curious to kind of find out more about this whole situation, like why things kind of are the way that they are. Like, what secrets are they keeping? Because you can tell McGregor wasn't saying everything. It seemed like he was kind of making excuses about why things are kind of, because he tries to tell Katie, it's like, oh, we're handling things, we're moving slow and methodical, but then they do stuff later on that's kind of like, I thought it seems like they're rushing. So it's like, what are they hiding? Do they have ulterior motives in this situation? Like, for what reason would you have to kind of hide things, It's also interesting too, because there's those whole stencil things they're doing. I guess that's supposed to be like putting stuff in boxes to make it look like, oh, this is stuff that's for our host by putting the symbol up there, but it's like, oh no, this way we can get supplies and stuff through with transportation without people worrying about it, without people checking it too heavily. It's like, what exactly? Whether it's like weaponry or stuff like that, what other kind of supplies that might entail, we don't know. There's a lot we don't know, and it's kind of interesting enough, that's stuff that the Bowmans don't know either. One thing we did see in this episode is we finally get a look at the Raps and finally understand completely what they are. They aren't just some like things stuck in suits. They are robots. They are some kind of like machine, alien species, some artificial intelligence machines. I mean, which kind of begs the question, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but it does beg the question, could they be running from their creators? I mean, they are machines. I mean, it could just be a natural born species, but what if something or someone else built them and they wanted freedom, so they escaped? Because basically, it's kind of interesting because the way it talks, at first, I guess it takes the patterns that people speak to it in, as obviously it repeats what Will says, even kind of bounces stuff back in his voice and Katie's voice and in McGregor's voice, Vincent's voice, for the purposes of kind of getting, I guess, dialogue samples to absorb of like, okay, now I know enough of your language kind of to understand how to translate this back to you. So we finally understand more about these things. We don't know exactly where they're from specifically, but they did kind of give out coordinates. So I'm curious, are they even from the same universe or this galaxy? I mean, we don't know how far like out this goes. I mean, we know how far things are for our planets, but I mean, did they go through a wormhole type of thing or black hole? Like whatever the situation of like what led them to getting to where we are now. So it does seem like like I said, they are running. It seemed like that was kind of what's kind of being set up here, but they are on the run. That's the whole reason for coming to Earth. They needed labor to kind of help them build weapons. That's what this is all about. They knew humans would be the perfect labor. But I guess maybe there's not enough of them to fight whatever battle they're running from, because they've been on a run for how long, we don't know, but it's basically saying like we did all of this whole taking over your planet thing, because it's something that even Vincent kind of gets at. It's like, oh, the fact of the matter is they already know so much about our planet even before they got here. It's because we know that they did, because that's something Snyder can kind of attest to. It's like they kind of let people know ahead of time about this, and there are plenty of people who actually kind of had a heads up about this situation to kind of get prepared for what was coming next. Snyder was kind of known in advance about what was coming. So the basic question, like, obviously last episode kind of told us what kind of machine that they are working on. And like we do know that it is a biological weapon, which begs the question, that means whoever they're fighting against isn't machine. They're biological too. So like, that's why I'm thinking like, it seems like it might be that. Because like I said, they're machines. So somebody had to have made them. Like they had to have existed. So I'm thinking like, the species they're running from are their creators. It's like maybe they wanted freedom. They didn't want to just be machines anymore. So they're fighting for their freedom. It's almost kind of like a revolution, kind of civil war type of situation potentially we got going on here. So I mean, we don't even know how many of the Raps there are, but like I said, it does seem like there might not be enough. Whatever technology they have, even as powerful as they are with all the drones and stuff like that, the fact is that they ran to Earth must mean that they don't have the power to like keep up with that. Even with all the walls they have, like they have advanced technology, but it must not mean diddly squat against these enemies. But the question then becomes, it's like, they want to join up with humans. It's like, technically, even though they've kind of been cruel, killing a lot of people, doing what they've been doing, it's for the sake of like, we need to work together, which is like, but you didn't come here with an open arm. You came here with a closed fist. You've killed and hurt so many people, but for them, it's kind of like, we do what we need to. There's no time to explain. We just need to make sure that things kind of work out, because more so than anything, it seems like they're not necessarily worried about humanity's survival, but they're just worried about their own. Like everything they're doing is a form of survival instinct, essentially trying, like, even if they have to sacrifice and kill a whole bunch of humans, as long as it gets them what they need, the weaponry and the labor and machines that they need to battle against what's coming. Now, this one in particular doesn't mean that he's kind of, I mean, it also depends. Like, it doesn't say that he's like some general or something, but I mean, like I said, maybe there's not that many Raps, so a lot, like one Rap's voice can go a long way in this whole situation, because it might be like, because there's not that many of them, they all high like there's no like hierarchy, and they're like, oh yeah, like, oh, like, oh, these people are lower than us, and there's like a high council. Maybe there is, but maybe everyone's on equal footing. So when one suggests like maybe we should work together, maybe it's because they know they're running out of time, that maybe they feel like if they can work together with humans that this situation would go by a lot quicker. Obviously McGregor got super pissed because it's something that Snyder was kind of getting at. It's like someone like McGregor, he doesn't care about all the like stuff. All he cares about is winning, like the glory of it. He's like, that's why he's even like Katie might be a threat to him, because Katie's getting a reputation for all the stuff because her and the LA Block are the ones who made, her and the LA Block Resistance are the ones who made huge moves against they kind of cause like quite the stir, and rumors probably spread about them. So why she's kind of held in such high regard. It's like she's a threat to everything he represents. It's kind of like he's just kind of a soldier, more so in for the glory. He doesn't really know what he's doing, essentially. So, which also begs the question, guys, is like, you can tell why Snyder is kind of like, he wants the entire family to leave. It's because he honestly doesn't want the Bowmans caught up in this situation, because he actually legitimately cares for them, because they've taken care of him in all this time, and also because he's always kind of had a soft spot for them even in the beginning. But he's always kind of an opportunist. That's just kind of part of his nature. But he probably wants to get them out of there as soon as possible. I mean, he hasn't gotten back to his thing yet, because the last time we saw it, he kind of left it out in the woods, kind of buried it, so no one could find the technology on him. So we'll kind of see what happens. I mean, I think nevertheless, like, Will kind of brought up a good point. It's like, honestly, Snyder's instincts kind of are the reason why he's still alive right now. So it's like, we shouldn't completely ignore his gut feeling about avoiding this place. But at the same time, there's that situation of like, we know people are hiding, but like, there's a society, there's something set up here. We need the kids to have some kind of form of a normal life. Kids go to school, adults work. And some very interesting developments all around. But what was most interesting is Vincent's like, no, we need to get back in there. Even him, Katie, and Will, like, we need to get back in there and interrogate them. He's like, no, that thing's lying. He's like, first of all, we need to get our own situation in order before we even worry about it. So it goes back to the question, like, what the hell is going down? It seemed like it, like I said, it was some kind of power struggle situation. The whole armed guard situation makes me think that what if, like, the Bugs Bunny dude that Broussard knew with the Bugs Bunny tattoo, what if he's not dead? What if, well, maybe potentially he is dead, but maybe there's another, like, this resistance group isn't all there is. Maybe there's another batch of them, kind of like it's got its own Civil War type of situation going on, where it's like some that don't follow McGregor, or those who turned against McGregor and follow the Bugs Bunny tattoo dude, Broussard's friend. Maybe he's still out there alive and kicking. Maybe he's not, like the way everyone's kind of clamoring up about it. And I guess if the resistance seems weak and scattered like that, it will make them look weak. So I guess McGregor's trying to keep up a strong front. That's kind of all I can allude to that. So ultimately, we kind of have to wait and see what goes down in the next episode about all of this. And along with all of that, we had the whole Broussard situation, him and his friend. We still don't know her name yet. We do know that she is a doctor in a sense, so it seemed like she was kind of a neurosurgeon. She was from San Fran, obviously, when everything, because we got to look at her in the past, in particular 6 months ago, when everything went down at the end of season 2 with the kind of the rendition situation. So, it seems like something about the LA Block kind of bothered her, because when it was all said and done, like, you see it kind of bothering her. She's wearing that necklace and everything. So was there someone that's important to her in the LA Block? Because later on she lies and says, like, oh yeah, that she went into the like when Broussard and them were asking for help, it's like, oh, I'm looking for my kids. It's like, is that a lie, or is there some truth to that? Part of me, like, I mean, maybe it's someone that we know. Like, I mean, we know about Katie's family situation, but we never actually talked about Will's. You don't think it's something crazy like that's his sister or something, do you? I mean, I'm just saying that because it's like, I just thought about that. Like, in the entire series, like, has the conversation of Will's family ever come up? Like I said, we've seen Katie's family situation come up a little bit, but not a lot. So grandparents are kind of out of the pictures, but it's like, I don't know if Will has any siblings or not. Maybe he's an only child. I don't know if that's something that is that what they're kind of setting up with that situation. Obviously, something went down in the LA Block that kind of upset her, like, as we saw. So it's like she has some kind of connection to it in some shape or form, even before all this, like, becoming a part of resistance. Because it seemed like she started off like that. She was just kind of a doctor, and it seems like she fixed up one dude named Thomas, and that kind of set everything in motion to where we are right now. Well, what's kind of sad is, like, they're helping out that group because it's like, hey, we help them out, they help us out. It's going to take us a long time. It'll take us months to travel all that way to the camp. Obviously, it took like 6 months for the Bowmans to kind of get there. So it's like, you know, but Broussard didn't want to help because it's like they're amateurs, because essentially they're willing to help. It's like, hey, give my wife some medicine. and I'll help you out. Sadly, things play. I don't understand why things turned out the way they did, because it seemed like everything was going smoothly. Yes, there were some hiccups here and there because like the guy couldn't find the medicine. At first, it was like, okay, let's go, 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 and they were going out, but the other groups came in driving with the truck. It's like, why did you do that? I guess they were so worried they didn't believe in the plan. It's like, oh no, no, you know, maybe the dude's wife was so worried, or they were worried about their friends. It's like, no, 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 we have to go no matter what the circumstances are, and they all ended up dying because of it. Every single one of them. It's like, holy crap. Like, why did you do that? Broussard was like, hey, follow my instructions. You would have been good. You know, he even gave you a little time in the wiggle room to make sure that, you know, things kind of were all good. But it's kind of sad that it all blew up in their face like that. It's just kind of that sad situation of like, unless you pay attention, unless you focus, like, you know, unless you listen to the plans, like, they're not trained soldiers like he is. They're just regular people. So coming up with a plan, just following orders, you know, it's a situation where the emotional side of them kind of took over, and it kind of led to them all dying. He's even telling his friend, like, hey, you need to kind of can't let death bother you. But for her, it's like, I don't want it to be easy, just kind of accepting death. And it's like, I mean, it's that thing of like, there's some parts of yourself under these circumstances to do what you need to do and do what you need to get done. Parts of you have to cut part of yourself out just so you can do what needs to be done. But what's interesting is when they came across that building, like kind of dome or whatever, it seemed like it had like a magnetic pull because her necklace, even the bullets were kind of floating. What was interesting too is that it seemed like when she got closer, she was getting weaker. So the question is like, why is that? Does she have some metal in her body or something that was reacting to that, or what? Because it didn't seem like Broussard was necessarily affected by it. It seemed more like she was. Not less that could be potentially one of those weapons they have set up, one of those biological weapons. And the fact is, maybe she's already in a weakened state, and so it hit her first. Maybe Broussard's a little better off, like, in certain regard. Maybe she has some health issues that we don't know about that it was kind of tugging at or something. Like, I don't know. She was just kind of getting weak and kind of hearing something. So maybe it was more like, it was kind of like, maybe it's something we've come across before in the past and I'm just blanking on it. I don't remember anything like that. You know, maybe it's kind of like a certain weapon or something, because she was like, do you hear that? So maybe it's something that kind of affects things on a certain frequency. So maybe on some level she was hearing it at a certain frequency and it was affecting her. Potentially, I don't know. That's just me kind of guessing on this whole thing. So we still don't really know what that's about. They're still on their way to the camp. They did find out, like, oh yeah, no one's heard from the camp since like last night. So obviously we as the audience know what went down to kind of lead to that. But like I said, a very interesting episode. A lot of stuff we kind of had an idea about, but it's now like 100% confirmed, learning more about the clicks, or rather raps. It's going to be interesting to find out more about them potentially in the next episode, depending on whatever this whole McGregor situation ends up being what it is, you know? Because, I mean, we do know that he's already lying, because it's like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be a defector, but he was like, no, that was kind of a lie. It's actually just a prisoner of war. Well, because it sounds better if it sounds like, oh yeah, like the fact is we have someone captured. The fact is, I get why you would, but at the same time, it's like you're so worried about perception. Kind of makes me think like, Snyder was saying that you're kind of in this for the wrong reasons. Because, I mean, I guess because it sounds more powerful, like, oh, there is kind of, one of the enemy is on our side willingly, which, to be fair, kind of turns out to be true, considering the fact is it wants to work together, which begs the question, what would the relationship between everyone be like going forward, between the Raps and the humanity after everything? Obviously, a lot of humans are kind of okay with that, but what about the resistance and everything that they stand for? Like, will they be super cool with just going like, oh yeah, let's work together now for the greater goal? Because they do know that if they don't work together, this will be annihilation, not just for the Raps or clicks, but also for humanity. It makes you wonder, if these Raps hadn't ran away to Earth, would Earth even be on these other species' radar in the first place? Would they have eventually come to Earth anyway? Because the way the Raps kind of like, oh, we are your shield, essentially. We're kind of your protectors. So it's like, were they heading this direction anyway? And because the machines knew that, they came here to they knew they could take advantage, because it's like, hey, Earth is a good target anyway, so let's go there, defend up, use them as a means of taking them out. Because like I said, maybe because because if they are connected to the species, like the way I said, like they were built by this other species, then maybe they know firsthand that Earth was always going to be their next destination, hence why they chose Earth to come to. I mean, to be fair, kind of in our galaxy situation, there is a situation of like, well, Earth's the only place with its certain conditions, with living like creatures that have some intelligence and of some use. Like I said, I kind of feel like that's kind of why they specifically want people like Broussard and Will, is because of their mind, because of their past, they can be used tactically for war. I think that's what this is all about. I thought it was more so for the resource of like, oh, like maybe it has something to do with their bodies, but it is more so their minds, because they are kind of fighters, kind of warriors in a sense. They can be used as a fighting force against what's coming. Maybe they could, the machines could absorb some of their military, or, you know, well, in, you know, Broussard and Will's case, like military prowess as a means of kind of creating a more unified and more strategic strategy against them potentially. That's kind of my mindset on it now. So ultimately, I have to wait and see what goes down in the next episode to see if anything kind of leads to those theories panning out or not. So very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.